Hey guys, and to the 2.3% of you ladies out there who watch this channel, welcome. Today we're going to work on a Penn Conquer 4000, wherever it is, somewhere there, right there. I'm going to show you how to break it down, service it, and reassemble it. Now I did take this wheel apart already, just to kind of see what was going on inside there, because there's a lot of things going on, and I want to be sure I got all the pieces that I would need, just in case I need to replace them. First we're going to start with the spool, but we're going to take out the handle first, just by turning it backwards or counterclockwise. Spool comes off by turning the knob backwards and just pulling up. We're going to work on the spool first. We got to pop that off, and not for any particular reason besides this is one of the hardest ones to get off, as a matter of fact. Using a blade probably works the best. Just kind of pop it up like that. There's a seal under there, and that's what, you know, sucks it in into that little round gold piece there. But not for any reason besides opening this up, kind of cleaning off inside there and putting it back on, because most of the stuff is accessed, or pretty much all the stuff is accessed through the bottom. So to start, we're going to take those four screws off. Clean that up a little bit. I'm going to use paper towel just to wipe it off. If anything else needs to be done, then we do that, but I don't think it needs to. And some parts I will show you. And other parts in terms of cleaning stuff, I'll show you, and the other parts I won't. And that's simply because of time. Like, how long does something take to clean? If it takes a while, I'm not going to show you. You can kind of figure that out. But I will be using stuff like Corrosion X, which is just a penetrant that breaks down grease. A lot of Q-tips, paper towels you can see me using there, and a couple other things along the way. Toothbrush. That gets in the nooks and crannies most of the time, and sometimes not. I'm going pretty gentle here, even though you might hear some noise from it. I'm not trying to scratch anything. Alright, so you notice there are two different pieces there. One goes there, kind of like that, and that goes on top. Let's leave that off for now, and then we'll just go to the bottom and then work on that. Alright, so to access this, we're going to pop out this line keeper first. And the way to do that is simply getting one end, kind of moving that out, and we're trying to get that out and up is what we're trying to do. I don't want to say that's the easiest thing to do, but it shouldn't be that difficult either. There we go, that one's out. And we could probably work it with just one, but just to make sure, we're going to get both up in the air like that. Now we're just going to push to get that bump out of the way, and now we can pull with our tweezers, and out it comes. Now we're going to undo this piece in the middle here. I'm going to see if my finger can open it up, because if not, then we have to use an adjustable wrench. Good. You have to use an adjustable wrench, and a small one at that, to kind of get inside there to turn it. It's hard to turn it with my fingers, so we're just going to keep turning it with this. And that's counterclockwise to remove it. Let's go ahead and pop this out. I'll try to keep it intact, but it probably won't come out that way. It did not. Let's get the rest of this stuff out of there. There's just a lot of stuff going on in this reel. And I don't mean like issues, I mean simply just a lot of different components. Alright, at this point I'm going to stop the camera, clean this stuff up. I think I may end up replacing these, not sure yet. But you can see right through, which is good. Alright, so I'm going to stop, clean this stuff up, come back to you, show you how to put everything back together and what places I would grease or take care of before covering it back up. Alright, so I did go ahead and replace the drag washers. They were just a little too far gone. And I kind of laid this out as how it would go back in. So you see, we start from there and just kind of work our way through. I'm going to do this part first, and that's just the clicker assembly. I'm going to take this, pinch this, stick it through that hole that's right there. Then just push those two ends inside, and that's set. Now the way that would go inside would be upside down like this. I'll leave that alone for now. I'm going to go ahead and grease these drag washers. I'm going to use Cal's drag grease. I'm going to do all of them first. I'm going to pull them out of the way so they don't get inside that junky stuff that's on there. And you're just putting a light coat on this. Okay, so the first thing we're going to put in is one of these metal washers. It's the keyed one. Drop it straight down. One drag washer. Then we're going to put this aired washer in. Those 4 little prongs will fit inside 4 channels that are in there. Just kind of find it and drop it in. You can kind of work it around to get it inside. Kind of like that. And just kind of follow along as I go. Then when we get to here, we're going to take this spacer and drop that in. That needs to go around the drag washers. So I'm going to drop that in like that and kind of move these to get that to drop. That ring to drop in there flush, which this one is. All we have left to do now is this. You can put a little bit of grease inside there. I'm not going to. I like the ladder clicker, so the way to do that is angle this in, push in and down, and it's set. I'm going to grease these threads here. You'll notice there's a black O-ring there. I did not take it off. I kind of leave those things alone. But note that it's there. That's just to help this not freeze or lock up inside here. Now we're just going to drop it in, kind of like this. I'm going to back it up with my finger until I feel it drop in place, and then I'll start screwing it in. Sometimes it's easier than others to do, but you want to make sure that you're not cross-threading this, which is difficult when you're just using your fingers, but not necessarily impossible either. Alright, that's tight. I'm going to tighten it up one little bit more by using this. And that's it. I just pinched the 2 flat sides and turned it. Now let's go ahead and do the line keeper. The way that's going to sit is looking like that. Keep that finger over it so it stays in place. And we're going to use one end of the one prong or one end, stick it through the hole, and then pull it through with the tweezers. We can work that in a little more, I think. There we go. Now I'm just going to pull this over. And this one's going to be a little bit difficult because it's already trapped inside the bottom, and I don't want that. I kind of want it up above that ridge that it sits in. But I may be out of luck with that. So let's go ahead and keep pushing it in. There we go. Now that one's already set. We can drop this one in just by turning it down. Up here we can add a little bit of grease. I'm going to use my fingers to kind of spread it. And then I'm going to add some grease to those holes there. In all likelihood, you'll never open this up, but at least you know how to do it if you wanted to. I'm gonna set both pieces together versus one at a time. Probably a little easier to do it that way. One thing to note is that the thicker or wider gap side will be facing down, which I didn't do the first time. Go ahead and screw those in. Alright, now on to the rotor and the bale assembly. To access that, we're going to pull this up. There's quite a few pieces on there, so I'll kind of leave that in one piece, I think, if I can. I think I'll just show it to you now so you see it just in case. So you have a couple of washers on there just for the spool. You have that one there that, where'd it go? You have this O-ring or that gasket that sits inside. That's this piece right here. You can separate this. Your bearing, another gasket, and that washer that's underneath that sits all the way in the bottom. Alright, now to remove the rotor, we're going to undo that set screw there, and then undo that nut. It's lefty-loosey to take this off. And kind of rock it as you pull it up. Let's go ahead and undo the, guess we'll just undo the entire thing. I may not do the entire thing. I want to kind of show you things as I go, so. Let's start with this side first. Nothing there. And this should just be just a facade or covering for it. Whew. Alright, so all the business is over here. We're going to undo this screw. And you get to get your first look at the bale spring assembly, which is kind of funky. I mean, it's not that bad, but I didn't want to do that. I was trying not to do that and I messed it up. It dropped in the garbage, by the way. It was just like a needle in a haystack. Alright, there it is. That was an event. Alright, so let's take the rest of these things out. That. Then you have the trip arm. And that. Alright, now I'm going to do the line roller. Then we're going to get this stuff cleaned up and I'll come back to you and show you kind of how everything goes back in and how to reset that spring there. This line roller was noisy, so I think we need to replace the bearing inside here. Ooh, yeah, there we go. That's nice. I wonder if this comes off or not. Ooh, nice. Alright, there we go. Now we can work on getting that bearing off. I'm not even sure I'm going to show you how to do this. Whenever you're doing this, you got to be careful with the, we just cracked the bearing off, so this is pretty bad inside. Essentially what I'm going to use at this point is some heat to get the rest of that off, the inner race. So I won't be showing you that, but when I come back it'll all be gone, and I'll move on to showing you the rest of this stuff here. Alright, so let's go ahead and do the bail spring section first. We're going to take our bail arm, or sorry, our trip arm. A little bit of grease there will be good. Not too much. Grease right here where that's going to ride. Grease inside here where the spring goes. Around that post. Some inside the hole. And I think we're good. Now we can take this, drop it in with the long side facing down, looking like that. Work it up all the way to the top. Take this piece, you'll see there's a recess right there. That recess portion will be facing up, facing the sky. We're looking at it like this. I'm gonna add a little grease inside that hole right there. Then we have this transfer arm. There's a thinner portion at the bottom and a thicker portion at the top. The thinner portion will be facing down towards the bottom, like I said earlier. Stick that in just like that. Now on the bail arm, there's a little hole right there. We're going to stick that post inside. I'm going to add some grease to it to kind of secure this piece when I put it together. Stick it inside the hole, and now we're just kind of set. It'll be around there somewhere. Take it, put it over the post. Make sure those pieces are inside that channel right there, and you're good. Take this bail arm, move it all the way to the top. Well, not right now, but you can secure it, and then we're going to move it all the way to the top. Doesn't need to be super tight yet. Just get it snug down. Make sure that's going in good motion, which it is. Move that closer to the middle like that. Take our bail spring. Don't need any grease on it. Stick it up inside just like that. Keep your finger over this. I'm gonna do it so you can, or try to do it so you guys can see it. Push up until it gets inside the base. Let's do it this way. Inside the base of that support right there. When you get to the bottom, I like to sometimes use a screwdriver to just kind of make sure it's all the way in, which this is. Now we can go ahead and cover it up. So it doesn't go flying anywhere. Now your bail arm is set. You can also double check at the bottom to make sure that trip arm is going down like it should, because if it's not, then it's not going to work. Alright, let's go ahead and grease right here, right around there and inside that hole before we forget. I'm going to cover this up since it's just a facade and nothing really there. You don't need to put any grease or anything, just put it back in and cover it up. And now we can take our bail wire and just kind of stick this on. There's a piece on here that I did not take off, and I'm not going to take it off. But note that there is like an E-clip or a clip there, and a rubber gasket that secures this bail arm to this pivot. I'm going to secure this end first. And notice I did put some grease on the back side of that. Let's stick some grease over that hole. Then screw that in. At the end, we'll snug all these things down. Alright, open that up. Grease inside here. Grease inside here. And you can certainly use oil on these things, but if you notice that that other bearing was frozen in there, and the goal here is to try to prevent that from happening. So I rather use grease versus using oil on it. Take the two new bearings, add some oil to them. Let's go ahead and work that in. And now we can take our first bearing, stick that on there, just push it all the way down to the bottom. Now for the line roller, we're going to add some grease to that as well. There's an overabundance of protection when it comes to line rollers, because once they get frozen on there, depending on which ones or what components are in there, it is difficult to get it apart without breaking it. Now we're going to take that line roller looking like this. The thicker part will be facing the bale wire. Push it on just like that. We have a spacer here that goes in the middle. Drop that on. Then take our second bearing and stick that on there. And now we're going to take this and just connect it. Kind of like so. I'm going to leave that there for a second. I'm going to go ahead and grease this screw here that goes inside that line roller. And then secure it with the screw. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this body opened up. We're going to start with the top section and then kind of work our way down a little bit. Maybe a couple of jumping rounds here and there. First thing I'm going to do is remove that spring. Just push it up off, kind of like that, and leave it alone. Undo these 6 screws that we're going to have here. We have 3 around the pinion. And then we also have 3 around here on the rotor brake. These are all the same size, I think. You do want to take note of where that arm on this cover is. Notice it's towards the front of the reel, situated there, so we can attach that spring to it. Up it comes. I'm going to pull straight up just like that. Leave that alone for a second. And now I'm going to remove these 3 screws, because under these screws is the rotor brake, as well as 2 holes that will allow you to remove the shafts for the crossline block. I'll show you what I'm talking about when I open it up. And also this rotor brake needs to be replaced. Not this part, but the plastic that's underneath it. I'm separating these screws because I can't remember if they're the same size or not, because they're kind of this thing is not flat. If you look at it sideways, you see there's a little dip right there. Yeah, let's get this rotor brake out of here. Look at this nastiness. Woo! Gotta clean that stuff up. Alright, so now I'm going to open this up. Start with this screw right here. Good. Undo this screw on the side. Separate that. That drops out. Ooh, yeah, that's right. I forgot how dirty this thing was. Alright, now I'm going to undo. Which screw is it? I think it's this side first. Yeah, this side. I could be wrong. We're going to undoing both sides either way, so it doesn't matter too much. but all these 3 screws here are going to be the same. And this is key to removing that main gear. So that's why we're doing this. Yeah, I think it was the other side. Let me look at the schematic 1 second. Yeah, this is the wrong side of this side over here. Like I said, same thing for this side. You have 3 screws that are just kind of sitting there, and these actually act as a kind of a cover for the main gear. We don't want you there. Ooh, this is so nasty. Alright, so now this should come up. Oh, 2 screws, my apologies. Move these 2 screws, and you got to be careful you don't strip these screws here. This is the key for removing the main gear, so if you don't do this right, you're just kind of stuck with that. I'm going to put them over here, but they may not be the same size. Now we can pull this up, just kind of rocking, and we hopefully get it up. Perfect. Take the bearing out, and now this should be able to move. Pushing these 2 things up. They're both the same length. Now we have like a lot of looseness here, which is good. There goes that. Now we have a screw we can remove for this gear right here, which is the crosswind gear. Be careful when you do it. Pull that up. You have another gear there, so you can't really move this out of the way if you don't pay attention to the gear, to the drive gear or the main gear right here. Here's the screw I'm referring to, which is that transfer gear right there. Now to get the main gear out, I'm going to push up, kind of at an angle, and this should come out. Hey, come on out. There we go. And that's it. Alright, so I'm going to show you, should I show you this part? Yeah, I think I will. How this is situated when you put this back in. You have that transfer gear there. I missed a washer here that goes on top of the top of that bearing right there. That sits under the crosswind gear. Drop that down, and that's kind of how it will look. This will be in first, then this goes on afterwards. This does not go on until the end. This is the last piece that will go on. Alright, so I'm going to clean all this stuff up. Oh, let's show you the pinion stack. My apologies. Pinion stack looks like this. This is so nasty. Alright, so you have a bearing that came off the bottom. Then you have your clutch, this bearing cap, with the bearing inside of it. And that's it. I'm going to get it cleaned up, come back to you guys. You got to put it back together. Okay, so the first thing we're going to put back in would be the main gear. And you can see I replaced, as you'll see, I replaced a lot of these things. This reel had issues with the the reel locking up and the reel sticking, skipping, plethora of things. It all stem from the gears. The gears were all bad. So we're changing out the main gear. We're going to change out the pinion on this. And those crosswind and the transfer, or the idler gear, was kind of suspect as well. So we just changed those out too. Surprisingly, most of the bearings were average to good. So not a lot of issues with the bearings somehow. So you see what I'm doing with this gear. I'm just doing a coverage of the entire surface area. I like to stick a little bit inside that hole right there too. So it's going to go in just simply like that. Next step we can do is actually put this on. Before we do that, we're going to stick on the idler gear. I'm going to put a little bit of grease on this, not a whole lot. Drop that on there. Stick some grease on there as well. As well as around this post for the crosswind gear. And some on top of that hole. Drop that on. And if it falls off, no big deal. Just stick it back on there. Now I'll show you how this thing lines up when we get it in. Where'd it go? It fell off like I thought it might. I think we need to get it off anyhow because the that needs to go through a hole in this, and I forgot about that. So let's go ahead and drop that on, kind of like that. And now we can secure it. This is going to kind of flop around on you. That's okay. I'm looking for my screws for this side plate right here. And all these screws I'm going to coat with some grease. There's the first one. I was looking for the holes. Couldn't find them. And one should be across right here. Kind of like that. Again, like I said, if it falls out, we'll just stick it back in. Alright, now we can take these and get them ready to put in as well. Once we put these in, we're going to put the that cover and this brake on as well. So let's leave those here. Alright, so let's go ahead and put one of the bearings in. I'm going to stick on our shims. Oil this bearing. And let's go ahead and add some grease inside that hole right there where the bearing is going to sit. We'll do the same on the other side when we get there. And some on top of those holes where those screws are going to go. Just drop that in. That kind of helps us support it there. And I'm going to stick these in now. A little bit of grease on top of them. goes through there at the top. One goes through the bottom. Right there. Now we can take our rotor brake. This is our new one. Stick that on there. Notice the opening is going away from the foot or the arm of the reel. That end piece goes all the way around that end. There's a little notched off piece right there. That squared off end of this rotor brake goes all the way past it. And you might have to squeeze this on there because this is a new one. So you want to get it over that hole on the housing. Then just push it down. Now you can take this. That's going to sit looking like this. Push it down, make sure it gets in there. And now we're going to take our 3 screws, which would be these right here, and secure it. You just snugging these down, you're not really trying to over tighten it, but you want to snug it down to make sure that everything is compressed. I'm always hesitant to do it like this because I mean I actually have to open it back up, but since the bearing's already in, there's nothing else really to do, so I think we just go ahead and cover it up. I'm going to grease all the way around here. Just kind of line that up with the holes. And again, like I said, I'm going to add some grease to the end of these screws just so I have them with some sort of coating on them. Because if you get it locked up in there, the reel is just toast, you can't really service it. All you can do is use it until it breaks. Alright, now let's go ahead and work on getting the crosswind gear in there. Let's go ahead and grease it up. Decent amount over that post right there. Now let's go ahead and drop the first bearing on. Goes over that shaft. Let's add some oil to it. Now we can stick this on there. This goes kind of like that. You want to make sure it lines up with that idler gear. It looks about right. Take our washer, drop that on. Let's grease, oil this other one up as well. Just drop that over the center and push it in. Didn't go down all the way, so we got to make sure it's set. Alright, there we go. Now at this point, I'm going to secure it with this. And you see the clearance on there is very, very little, but it does fit. Let's go ahead and get some grease on the top of this. check that out. That's looking pretty good. Now we can do the block. I'm going to work this post towards the bottom, kind of like that. Decent amount of grease inside this channel right here. Now the way it's going to sit is looking just like that. Darn it. Tornito. Did that too quickly. Apologize. Let's go ahead and remove that or lift it up. I'm not going to take it all the way out. I'm just going to lift it up slightly so these can have some play to them. If that's not good enough, then we'll just take it all the way out. If I can find that thing. There we go. Alright, let's go ahead and push those back down. Then we'll cover it back up. Now I want to work this down when we get the pinion gear in to get that all the way down. And if it's far enough down, I'll do it right now. I think we can. Yeah, that should be good. I'm going to go ahead and stick that shaft in. So I'm going to add some grease to the bottom right here where that's going to go inside the block. And just kind of stick that down through there. Kind of like so. I got more grease on my fingers there than I did on the screw. Alright, so let's go ahead and do the other side. Let's oil this bearing as well. Grease inside there as well, like I said before. We don't want that getting frozen in there. Add some to these holes and also around there. Drop that in. Now we can take this and do the same thing we did on the other side. The grease that I'm using is Penn blue grease if you guys are interested in that. And the oil that I'm using is Relax oil. Now we can put this bottom part on. These two they do come apart. And a good way to know what goes where is this little opening here will go over that tab, and that hole receives that post right there. So just drop it down. It kind of pops in place. And I think we're good with everything there. So we're gonna we'll leave it open for now until we put the pinion in. All right, so the pinion we're gonna grease up. Same deal as the as all the other gears. Got a grease inside here where that stack is going to sit. I do not want this. I don't like anything getting frozen, but I do not want this stack especially getting frozen because it just kind of sucks. Let's get our first bearing and stick that on. Now we can take our anti-reverse clutch, that entire setup, and we're going to add some oil to it because I cleaned it. So I'm adding 3 drops. That'll work its way in when we put everything back together. Now we're going to look for those 2 little receiving slots right there. Kind of fit them over like that, and that should be about right. Yeah, that looks good. Now we can take this, stick that inside. Now I want to make sure that this main gear is kind of up out of the way, so I don't push down on that too hard when I'm putting this stack back together. That's looking good. I'm gonna leave that off for now because we need to put the bearing cup in with the other bearing. That should be good. Pop that bearing in, add some oil to it. I'm just gonna drop that on top of the stack. Now we can go ahead and put this cover on. It's going to go around, right around there. And then we're going to secure it with the 3 screws. Move it over to the left and just kind of bend this and pop it on. Now you're set. Let's go ahead and put the bottom. Let me check this first. Feels pretty buttery smooth to me. Let's go ahead and stick this on there. That receiving hole will be going over here under this screw, and conversely this screw is over here. First one we're going to secure is this one. Now we can push this up as we screw down on this one. Fairly snug is good. You don't need to go crazy on that one. Now we can cover this up. Let's go ahead and get this rotor on. Alright, let's go ahead and secure with the screw. And I think somewhere around there should be good. We're going to add some grease around this area right here, so it doesn't get stuck there. Drop this over and let's see if that's good or not. Close. I think that's good. Secure with the set screw, and then we're gonna work and finish this wheel up. Alright, now we can go get this piece on. Just drop it on. This piece goes on looking like this, and I'll show you if I can. The raised piece there in the middle would be facing up towards the spool, so kind of looking like this. on with the bearing. That's going to kind of sit there for a second before we put this in. Add some oil to it. Conversely, you could put this on top of that before putting this down. And I'm obviously going to stick some grease inside here to help protect it as well. Drop this in. Make sure that bushing there goes through the center of that plastic piece on the bottom. This is going to go in. That curved part will be facing down inside this bushing. Then we'll just take our washers and put them on there. And we are good to go. Last thing we're going to do is the handle. There's not a lot of stuff to do here. Going to grease right here. Inside here as well. And around that shaft. That should be good. Now we can go oil right here. And inside there. Let's kind of work that in a little bit. Now let's test this reel out. Make sure it works. I mean, that would really suck if it didn't work. That feels good. Oh, that feels nice. Bail flip. Nice. And the reverse obviously works. Alright guys, thanks for watching. If you found the video useful, please hit that thumbs up button. If you appreciate content like this, please hit the subscribe button and hit that notification bell as well. And that is it from me. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.